Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tips, tools, and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today I have a special guest. I have Tim Cunninghamm. Tim is an author, inventor, researcher, and biohacker who has been mixing electrolytes and minerals since 1979, when he stumbled into an esoteric bookstore and was guided to learn the art of mineral formation. In 2007, on his quest for wellness and longevity, Tim started Smell Taste Technology, LLC, to help people heal their sense of taste and smell. Currently, Tim is passionate about a product called Lyte Balance, a formulation of minerals that are positively charged, that hydrate on a cellular level and facilitate healing. Welcome, Tim. It's such a pleasure to finally have you on my show today.
Thank you very much, Anya, for having me with you.
So you and we're going to talk about the alchemy of supercharged minerals on a cellular level, which is super exciting. And I'm actually going to start off with my story because I have quite a powerful testimonial as to how I even found Lyte Balance and how I even have connected with you today on this podcast. So this was probably about 5 years ago. I had moved across the country from the state of Florida to the state of Washington. And for any of you who have done that drive, you know it's about 5 or 6 days, right? So you're sitting in the car for a long period of time. Well, by the time I got across the country, I was in so much pain because I had been in a sitting position the entire time across the country. Well, I didn't really know what was going on with me. I just knew that I had progressively gotten more back pain over the course of the following months after I had moved across the country. So that was roughly in November. Okay. So I went from a really sunny environment to a very dark environment here in Spokane, Washington, and from a very warm environment to a very cold. So I felt like my body kind of shocked it a little bit. Well, as I was driving across the country, I was really thinking I was keeping myself hydrated. I was drinking reverse osmosis water, and I was doing that because I was trying to eliminate the fluoride in my body. Well, did not realize, and we'll talk about this in the show, that I was not properly hydrating myself. And so I had gotten to a point, Tim, where my back pain was so bad. My parents had to fly out from New York to take care of me. I couldn't even walk. I couldn't go shopping for myself. I couldn't do, and I was a college athlete. So this was really difficult for me. So my parents get out here, and this was probably 3 or 4 months after I had moved. My parents got out here and we went to a local natural food store here called Pilgrim's. And when we walked in the store, there was a nice gentleman there, and he was sampling this product called Lyte Balance. And he said, "Hey, you want to try this?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" And he said, "It's minerals." Well, he kind of explained, if it's salty, this is what you need to do. And this, which I'll have you explain in the show. But as my dad had some and I had some, and my body immediately was like, I want more. I want more. I could sense it in my body. And so I bought a bottle, my dad bought a bottle, and my mom bought a bottle. We each got one. So over the course of the week, we were supplementing with Lyte Balance, and I was probably taking more than I needed. I was just, because my body was really loving it. Well, I will say I have a beautiful picture of Manitou Park behind me. For those of you that live in the Spokane, Washington area, you know how gorgeous this park is. Well, before my parents got there, I could not walk. I couldn't walk to this park. But by the end of the week, after drinking the Lyte Balance, I was able to walk the entire park with my parents, and my body became more flexible. I became, I felt happier. I could get out of bed without struggling. My dad's neuropathy started to go away. He was having some tingling in his feet. So by the end of that week, my dad had stocked up. He had bought a bunch of bottles and took them back to New York with him. And so, Tim, I kind of wanted to start off with that story because not a lot of people realize, we think we're drinking a lot of water. We think we're hydrating ourselves, but we aren't doing it properly. So I kind of want to lead into your story and how you learned about, minerals and the importance of how they work with the human body.
Well, that's like, first of all, I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'm glad Lyte Balance worked, which I think is always amazing. It was gifted to me as part of a learning experience that I happened upon. And I always tell people I met a man. Okay. And I was, doing my usual stuff with color therapy and all kinds of body work and light therapy. And they kept telling me at the store I was missing an opportunity to talk to a wizard. You should go see the wizard. And I'm like, other than the Wizard of Oz, I don't do wizards.
And Harry Potter.
Yeah. And I thought that was like, okay, that's odd. But eventually I did end up in the Christmas holidays of 1979 at this gentleman's home up in Elk, Washington. And he had a whole menagerie of animals around him all the time because he was actually working with animals to get them healthy. But he wasn't a vet. He was more like a mineral guy, and he would put out selective minerals and they would choose the minerals they wanted. Okay, that was interesting enough. Yeah. I came to learn that that's called free choice. Very well known. You can research free choice with minerals and you'll find all kinds of great articles going back to 20s, 30s, and even most of the old school veterinary animal doctors, they knew all about this. Okay. This was interesting to me because when we sat and experimented with his mineral collection, of which I still carry forward to this day, he could tell by what I thought they tasted like what was going on inside my body.
Wow.
And I'm like, no. I'm like, hidden wires? How are you doing this? It was so amazing that he also hooked me up to a stethoscope that had a microphone in it, really loud. And he had me put it over my heart. And then he would have taste different minerals to see what sounds my heart would make when I swallowed. Okay, when you hear your heart go from a lub-dub to a lub-dub, you're like, what just did that? And you're holding a, okay, I got to know what this is all about. And that's how it started.
That is so neat. And, I do that with my cat. I leave things out so he has the choice test. And
right.
So, Tim, when we're talking about this, you say that where we store water in the body will determine our health. Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by that?
One of my favorite stories about that is we also did a lot of research with John, my mentor. And one of the things he brought out was a book. It was from the 50s and it was written by Dr. Snively. I know that's a funny name. You think Snively Whiplash, but Dr. Snively was famous for writing books on electrolytes. And one of the ways that he explained it in the very beginning of the book was he showed you the landscape of the body, and he showed you that what extracellular regions mean and what intracellular regions mean. And he did it like a geography map. He had all the lakes and rivers under this pool, and the pool was what's inside the cell. It's intracellular fluid. And they float in a dish like Cheerios with the milk in the middle when you put the bowl, right? And they float in a bath of like milk. The milk is the extracellular, what's on the outside. Okay. Now, the interesting thing, plasma, which makes up 60% of your blood, maybe 45 to 60, plasma, tears, sweat. This is all extracellular fluid that comes off of you. But what about inside your body? How dry your mouth is, right? All the way through the digestive tract, all the way out the end, how dry is it? That's an extracellular region. It is the outside of your inside. Got it? Now, think about all the lymph system, the drainage, the cerebrospinal fluid. Think about all the wetness that's in your body, your ligaments, the way your muscles slide on that fascia, how it moves and can tighten up. Like, why did your back get seized up, right? Because no fluid, you dried out. It was like rubbing 2 blocks of rough wood together rather than some nice wet sponges or what you see. You can feel the slick. So electrolytes bring grace, I call it, and slick to all the membranes. And the geography, surprisingly enough, looks like your blood pressure.
Oh, really?
What? Sure. When you look at intracellular and extracellular and you study the role of sodium and potassium, you see they have different places that they're important in the body. Sodium is important on extracellular fluids, and there's some of it on the inside. And potassium is important on the intracellular side, and there's some of it on the outside. They change places in this really amazing dance. Oh, and the guardians of when they're allowed to go in and out are calcium and magnesium.
Okay.
So you've got these four giant participants in electrolytes. They're all next to each other on the periodic table of elements, and they have a magical kind of relationship to each other. They support each other and help fluids move. So when you work out and you run, you push fluids out to your extracellular region to lubricate your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, and they build up heat, and you sweat to dump off the temperature, and you cool off on the outside. On the inside, your cells are working hard to make energy so they can get where they're going, delivering oxygen, pulling carbon dioxide out, bringing sugar and nutrients into the cells, bringing it back out. This is going on. It's a magical wave.
Yeah, the body naturally knows how to heal, right? Mm-hmm.
So this is the one secret I'd like to share. What surprised me most on that Christmas weekend in '79 was that my body knows this stuff. Why don't I know it? I can taste something and you'll tell me it means X over Y. And when I sip it, it changes the way okay, this is blowing me away. Animals do it all the time. Why can't we?
Yeah.
That was my question.
Exactly. And Tim, I want to talk about what the electrolytes are, what the elements are, because at that time, I thought I was doing right by myself. I was taking magnesium, and magnesium is awesome. But what is what's the correlation with magnesium and calcium and potassium and sodium, when you actually look at an electrolyte?
Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of electrolytes you can choose from. And the majority of them are based on a simple formula that the World Health Organization published about 15 years ago. So when we started to first have talks about hydration issues, we're at 2023 right now, but I can tell you starting in 1979, 80, there was nothing in the marketplace. You had that one that's named after an alligator. That's all.
And I met that guy. He worked for my old company, and I would not drink that one.
Okay, so the point, that's all that was there. And now you walk down, it's a whole supermarket section, right? So the industry's really grown. But still, most of those are based on a platform from WHO, which said if you're in a rapid rehydration crisis, salt and sugar and water, that's all you need.
Oh,
okay. Okay, you can do that at home.
Yeah,
that is a one-page story for a booklet that's probably 20 pages long. You get 1 page out of it. That's good, and that will get you out of trouble right away. Okay, that would have got you out of more trouble.
Yeah.
However, you were also throwing magnesium in there, which meant that you could have been throwing calcium in too, because they balance each other all the time. And then you had a lot of sodium in that salt, water, and sugar drink. Where were you getting your potassium? Well, if you'd had maybe coconut water, those two together, you could have got the washing machine going in and out and in and out, because it's all about this exchange. Okay. So most of the electrolytes today on the marketplace, and they are helpful for you sweaters out there. I don't mean the people that wear them when they want to get warm. I mean, for those of you that really do sweat, it's good for you.
Hypohidrosis.
Right? That's good. But a balanced electrolyte looks a little different. It's what they use in a hospital, and they do it for very specific tasks. When you walk in, they get your blood pressure right away, and a nurse has incredible training. She looks at your body weight and everything. She says, we'll need A, B, C, or D. We either got to push it this way or we got to push it this. They know that automatically. To get one in the middle, that's what we tried to do. And that's what my mentor said. You want one that does everything at the same time, and it's safe to use all day, every day, not just one that goes one way or the other. That was the idea.
Absolutely. And, I've got I got a bottle in my car. I've got bottles in my home. I have them. One thing I did notice is when I travel for long distances, drinking Lyte Balance, drinking that electrolyte, oh my gosh, I feel so much more flexible. You know how you can get locked up when you drive for long periods. And I think that's what you're right, Tim. I wasn't incorporating the potassium because I would wake up in the morning, and the moment my eyes would wake up, my body would go into lock. It would lock up on me, and I couldn't figure out, why is it doing this? Like, I'm taking magnesium, I'm doing the pinch of sea salt. I was doing all these things, but clearly I wasn't doing the potassium. That was the area that I was lacking in. Yeah.
But we don't often think of this like this. Sodium is muscles clenched. It tightens. That's a sodium muscle.
Oh.
Potassium is a muscle at rest. So they have functions. So when you look at blood pressure, again, 120 over 70, and 95 is the middle of, it's 25 above to 120 and 25 below to 70. Now, when the heart switches, it's got a tension, squeezing, pumping, and a relaxation, open, filling. The minute it fills, squeezing, pumping. You have both these things going on at once in your heart. So you need contraction and expansion. Contraction, expansion. Now here's where it gets interesting. The more potassium you have, the more expansion you have and the less contraction.
Yes.
The more sodium you have, the more contraction you have and the less expansion. So you didn't have enough potassium and too much sodium, so you clenched.
That's horrible.
If it had been the other way, you could have been like, I can't get out of bed. I'm depressed. I can't move. I feel like a big marshmallow. I don't want to do anything. So there are these variables that happen in this wave, which is why being in that middle, that sweet spot of that blood pressure is really critical. Getting close to the one, if you have low blood pressure, some people are like, oh, I'm 90 over 50. No, get it up there to 110. Well, my doctor says lower is better. Hey, if you're a mechanic, you don't have low pressure or high pressure tires. You don't have high fluid pressure or low. You have it in the middle.
Yeah.
You want the ability to be flexible, right? Both ways. So that's the idea. So the sodium, the potassium, and the magnesium in this mix have a job to do. But you keep asking the specific question about what do they do? So I'll share with you one of my secrets that goes back to the landscape idea. Okay, intracellular, extracellular, all the body fluids that you have, all the digestive fluids that you had, everything that keeps your colon wet so everything moves through you, and the minerals in there that extract all the goodness out of the food before you throw it away. Yep.
Yeah.
Sodium, potassium, and magnesium, the first name of that compound tell you where they live. Potassium lives in the cell. Sodium lives outside the cell. Magnesium lives in the membrane that separates them.
Oh, wow.
Calcium lives there too. Calcium and magnesium are best buddies. They're like, they hang out together all the time. The last name of the compound, chloride, sulfur, bicarb, phosphorus, they tell you what they do.
Oh.
All right. Potassium chloride brings water. Chloride brings water into the cell. Sodium chloride brings water outside the cell. They're directors. They take them places. Potassium sulfate squeezes water on the inside of the cell where potassium lives, and sodium sulfate squeezes water. Now, why do you want to squeeze water out of the cell? Well, you want the perfect mix of water, air, and pressure so that each one of those balloons, if you put it in the bathtub, would sit in the middle of the tub, not on top and not on the bottom. They would almost be weightless.
Oh.
So all of your cells then are actually weightless in your bloodstream. See, when you get a balance, there's levity, right? You're floating. So when you mix all these together and you get the sulfur squeezing and the chlorides expanding and the bicarbonates adding a little bit of air, so there's bounce in there, you know, it's like bouncy then. And you look at that phosphorus, oh my gosh, feeding the cell's motor, ATP. That's the motor in everybody's cell. Your mitochondria cell is the little battery that turns your cell on, runs on phosphorus. We're big on phosphorus. So all these things have a place. They go to work in their place and they deliver 4 or 5 different things each time they go there, all through the system.
Oh, wow. That's actually fascinating to hear the
I know, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, background of that. And so, Tim, why aren't we getting these electrolytes? Like, you know, because some people may say, I didn't even think about an electrolyte imbalance. Like, what are some signs of an electrolyte imbalance and signs that we might be dehydrated?
That's even a better question. I can't answer why we don't, except that we live in a world that's completely different from, thousands and thousands and thousands of years of development, hunting and gathering, living close to the land, eating actually off the ground. It's just a totally different animal.
Yeah.
Okay, number one, our evolution process. If we take that idea and say, well, I didn't even know. Well, let's just go to the signs. We talk about 5 things your hands can tell you about your hydration. And they're also tied to blood pressure. So I'll try to show it.
Yeah.
When you're sitting down, put your hands on your lap. And then look at your hands. They're flat down. Look at the back of your hands. See if there's veins on them. Or do you have veins on the back of your hands?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, now if you slowly raise your hand up to your eye level, do you still have veins on your hand?
Not so much.
Right. Bring it into your chest and you say, oh, that's my level. Once you get above that level, they drain.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Nurses used to do this. They'd come into the bedroom, they take your hand. Hi, dear. How are you doing? They lift your hand up above the level of your body and they're watching the dang veins to see if they go, okay. Then they turn your hand over and they look at the color of your hand to see if it's even all the way through from top to bottom, kind of red. If your palm right here is a little blue, that's a little low blood pressure. That's not circulation, right? If you make an indent and do perfusion, it should come back very quickly. Mm-hmm. So perfusion test, color of your palm, the veins on the back of your hand. When you open your fingers, are they pruning? Do they look like a prune? Or do they look like a balloon? There's 2 ways. There's little water and too much water. Now, that's just a sign. Dry lips.
Yeah.
Dry eyes. Okay. The 5 things your hand can tell you, that's your first indicator. And are they cold or warm?
Yes, that's huge. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, beyond that, you can also say, look at your blood pressure. Is it in the middle with equal above 90 and equal below? And it could be 90, 95. Okay, you can fudge a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not like a ruler. It's more like a rule of thumb. So if your blood pressure is normally, lower than, let's say 100 over 90 or 100 over 60, you're kind of centered low. You're not in the middle of 90. 90 being there, you don't want to be too high. You don't want to be too low. And that's the thing that's important. Your blood pressure tells you where your water is. If you're high blood pressure, you've got a lot of extracellular and you're pinched in the intracellular. If you're a low blood pressure, you've got lots intracellular fluid and less extra. Now, remember, it's not like you don't have any because your body is going to do its best to make sure you have enough, right?
Uh-huh.
So using a plain bottle, I'll illustrate what happens. When I'm low on fluid, my body squeezes itself with tension to make sure I have enough. What does that do? My shoulders get tight, my neck gets tight, but I get enough fluid. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So you tighten up to make the water go further. Or when you get the right amount, you relax into it.
Yeah, and it feels good.
Gracefully.
Yeah. Right? I know after I drink it, I supplement with it all day, in my water. And it's like, I feel so relaxed. It's like my body is like, thank you. Thank you for that. Mm-hmm.
So that's natural relaxation. And that's why we talk about hydration. You would ask earlier about specific minerals for specific things like an organ. It doesn't quite work that way.
Okay.
Not quite. I mean, another way to look at it is you have this incredible tool behind your nose and it governs what you taste and smell. Mm-hmm. Using this as a tool, your body knows what to do with whatever it tells you is good for you. And it will do that.
Yeah.
You can put your minerals in your water and sip it. Oh, I can't taste that. If you can't taste it, it's below your threshold. You could certainly add some more. If you can taste it, oh, that's strong. You have to add more water to it to get it to where you get it, where you like it. So you diluted it. Mm-hmm. So you're either going to increase it or dilute it. But the problem is it's not just one mineral. There's a whole bunch of them. There's like macro minerals, like the 4 we talked about for your, right? And the chloride, sulfur. Then there's the micro minerals, which are smaller. And then there's the trace minerals. Mm-hmm. And so how would you know?
How do you know? That's a question.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the macro picture, we just take 7 or 9 of them. That's what we have, a set of 9. There's 8 in here. There's 9 you can taste. You can supplement what you do. Let's talk about the electrolytes for a minute, because that was one question. You take 1 capful in 8 ounces of water and sip it. I can't really taste it, or it's really salty. 2 different reactions. Okay, I can't really taste it. Well, add another capful, see how that tastes. Ooh, I like that. That's a good measurement. 2 capfuls in water that tastes nice to you. That means you're holding a good level of electrolytes in your body. Ooh, it's too salty. Oh, then you need to add more water for a while until you start to rinse your system to where it can hold the proper amount of electrolytes and the proper amount of water together. You grow it. You don't go it. You grow it there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it was funny because when I first drank it, I didn't taste it. My dad didn't taste it, but my mom thought it was really salty. It was funny because all 3 of us, when we tried it, we were all very different in how we took the Lyte Balance in. And so I want to talk a little, you deal a lot with smell and taste. And I know after I had COVID, I lost my smell and my sense of smell and taste, and I didn't know how to get it back, but I ended up finding out zinc. Zinc was my thing. And that's what helped me. So can you share a little bit about some of the knowledge and wisdom you have about people who may have lost their smell and taste due to COVID or even other reasons?
So if we use my rule of thumb that I was just talking about and think about our sensory system as telling us what to do, if you can't smell or taste anything, it must mean that you should consume a lot of it. That would be like a dog. He's just out there eating. And there's a part of that I agree with about losing your smell and taste, but that's not quite the whole story. Yes, minerals and the density of minerals in your body are responsible for every kind of electrophysiological reaction you get. Even the molecules in your nose, these taste sensing devices on your tongue and the smell sensing little nodules in your nose, they're electronic. And it's theorized that at the center of that piece of electricity is a zinc molecule. Now, that's just theorized. The idea, though, is when you measure something electrically, like a wet bulb thermometer, they use them, how many ions are in the water. If I put the bulb in it, it tells me, oh, more ions or less ions. Okay, your nose kind of works that way, and so do your taste buds. The upper half is air, the bottom half, right? But the interesting thing is when you chew, the background fills the air into the nasal. So you're actually getting this wet atmosphere of a taste and a smell together. They mix, okay? Now, what I've seen with the COVID people is that increasing your minerals helps you regain. You use a bunch of them fighting COVID. You got to get them back. And as you get them back, your selectivity becomes more specific. So rather than just being open, like, oh, I can't smell that. I don't really have any smell. When I start to smell that, I come back. And if you talk to people who've recovered it, it doesn't come back like, boom, all of a sudden, well, it was back yesterday afternoon.
It took a few months. It was weird. Yeah.
And it's like a thing at a time. Oh, wow. Today, I can't believe I actually tasted that lemon. I mean, so you think of it like, if that's the way it happens, what is happening is you're rebuilding the chemistry that you need to turn back on the alphabet machine that can read each note. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah.
What would you do to get there? Well, you can be sure that if you got through COVID and you're here now, you spent a lot of chemistry to get where you are now.
Yeah, I'm glad I had my Lyte Balance on me when I went through COVID.
and that's one part of it. And that's just the hydration to keep you moving.
Yeah.
But it might have just allowed you to reach into all the corners and grab stuff that you had hidden all over your body. Your net level dropped. Now the question is, how do you increase and do it intelligently? Nutrient-rich foods. Yes, junk foods are not going to get you better after COVID. You're going to go for nutrient density. You're going to go for all of your good stuff, the bright reds, the bright yellows, the bright greens, these deep, rich, yes, That's absolutely true. You might even find that you've fallen in love with beets and you never liked them before. In this earthy, deep, rich, what is that? Well, we're talking like heavily mineralized. That is a heavily mineralized food. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just one example. Okay. And so when you start to think about how do you get back from that, you really want to mineralize. In all the work that we've looked at in terms of electrolytes, vitamins, and minerals. Electrolytes come first, lipids, oils, fats come second.
Mhm.
Third, protein is an electrolyte, believe it or not. If you're short in protein, you will not be able to hold on to your electrolytes. I call it the fifth beetle, like, it's the fifth electrolyte outside of those four big ones. You want to think about, am I getting enough protein? And the last one, the smallest amount of pages they give in a book about electrolytes, they give about 3 or 4 pages to vitamins. Yeah. We get so many vitamins from everything that we eat. And you're right to say we mostly get it, whether you're eating products from the processed foods, whether it's just grains, even good bread is fortified. The flour is fortified with B vitamins. So that whole group has been handled. It's the minerals that haven't been handled. They come out of the soil. And if you re-mineralize your diet, using your mineral set and the foods that go with it and the electrolytes, you're getting a pretty broad band of electrolytic and mineralized recovery.
Absolutely. And, there was a time when I would supplement a lot, but I learned the art of muscle testing, and now I muscle test everything. And I will tell you what got me through COVID was Lyte Balance, ORMUS, orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements, and ozone therapy. Those were the 3 things that me and my friend, we were doing this in my apartment, and it smelled like the ozone in here. But I'll tell you what, it really amped us up, and just understanding the power of minerals and and how they can really boost our immune system. And so, Tim, how can we use Lyte Balance rather than just putting it in water? Can pets drink Lyte Balance? How can we put it in recipes? How do we use it?
First of all, yes, pets. My pets have always had, my dog would smell the vitamins with me. He was so cute. He would look embarrassed if he didn't like the smell of it. He would look away. But if he wanted it, he would do that little happy dance with his feet and lick his lip. And the same thing was true with minerals. He had 7, 8, 9 bowls of minerals, and he also had free water. Remember, anytime you share electrolytes with your pet, you put it in a separate bowl so they have free water choice and electrolyte water choice.
So then how much is it? A capful, a dropful? How do you start with?
One cap to a cup is pretty much the rule of thumb. All the time. You could put 2 capfuls, but you certainly wouldn't want to put 3. And it's like, it's safe. And besides, they'll take 2 licks and go back to the water.
Okay.
That's a whole different thing, as long as they have choice.
Good to know.
So Lyte Balance is not just meant for water. That will give you a shower. That will run water through you, which is great. On a hot day, you're racing, you got it in water, you're drinking it, and it's just going right out you and cooling you off. You want to prep for a race, you want to mix it with a juice or a glucose base or a fruit, or stick the top of it in a watermelon for a half an hour and let it saturate the watermelon like we used to do with other things. That's a really great way to make a salty watermelon. Okay. Now, if you put it in dairy products, kefir, yogurt, chocolate, milk, or regular milk, you're going to get a whole different effect because you've got protein and fat.
Oh.
So you drive it deeper depending on what you mix it with. Protein and fat and digestible food, soups, salads, baked potatoes, mix everything. I cook with it all the time.
I do too.
And all my sauces. Yeah. That drives it into deeper. That's core foundational hydration. Water is running and getting a lot of sweat out. It's like taking a shower. Juice will give you energy and digestive speed when you go down that racetrack.
Yeah. And I've had where I've sweat and I've come home and my cat will start licking me. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Hey, don't waste that. Give me some of that.
Like, you taste good.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, this has been such an interesting show. Where can people find Lyte Balance? Where can they purchase it?
Well, locally, of course, in our area, we've got it in the retail stores of Huckleberries and Pilgrims, that where you found it, which I'm so grateful to them. They have been customers of Lyte Balance since I met my mentor back in the early 80s.
They're amazing. They're
When
amazing.
Joe's dad was running Pilgrims over here in the valley. Huckleberries Yolks is carrying it in a lot of the stores. And if you don't have it in your Yolks, ask them.
Yes.
And then you go online to Shopify and pick us up at lytebalance.com. And if you're an Amazon geek, you can go to Amazon and get it there too.
Absolutely. And you'll be able to get it on my website as well. So there will be a discount code that I'm going to leave in the description for you to try your first bottle of Lyte Balance. I promise you, you're going to want it. You're going to want to try this because, like I said in the beginning of the show, it changed my life. It changed my mom and dad's life. And we didn't even realize it came to something as simple as an electrolyte and balance. And so, Tim, I appreciate you coming on the show. Is there anything else that you think we need to share that maybe we didn't touch on in the show that would be of value to the listeners?
I think we did pretty good, but I want to say I'm grateful for you calling and asking the questions. And I love talking about this to people that are energized and are interested in taking care of themselves and actually learning how to trust their own body to drive them where they need to go safely. So listen to your body. It's your best friend. I'm just telling you. And I'm glad you cheered me up by asking, because I love talking about it. Thank you.
I can tell. I can feel your passion in it. And my entire show is about how to tune into your inner healer naturally and intuitively. So I feel that, Lyte Balance was right in alignment with what I talk about on the show. So thanks for coming on, Tim. I really appreciate your energy and the time that you spent with us today.
Thank you also. Come back again and visit me anytime. And anytime you need me, just call me.
You deserve to navigate your life in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.theexistentialempath.com.